That was Raw.
All right.
Now you know why you forgot it.
It's just, it's not good. I can remember everything that happened on SmackDown, at least in terms of the angles and the promos. Not necessarily the matches, because they don't matter. They don't matter.
Again, yes, that's the point. They've got it where there's just the intermezzo in between the
That's right.
second and third act.
The premium live event matches matter. They've trained me. I know the matches on the TV show don't matter. The angles matter. And again, I can what?
Well, I was just going to say, do you mean that the more successful promotion is the one that trained the fans what to think and expect rather than the promotion where the fans trained it what to do?
Yeah. I mean, that's the history of wrestling up until now, isn't it? I mean, successful promotions, any promoter, any territory, you train the fans. They knew they had to buy a ticket to see the match. That was the training, right?
Well, and there was all kinds of training. There was also training of what style got over, what the product that you presented looked like. And I'm not talking about lucha or hardcore or whatever. I'm talking about whatever vein or genre of the business that the promoter and or the booker that owned part of the office was best at is the one that would be on top in the main events, and that person would have people working that style against him and interacting with the other top guys. And then the preliminaries were what the preliminaries were. So that's why you got Eddie Graham with the technical wrestling up and down the card, and then the fucking brawlers in the main event because it stood out and was special. And that was his thing. And you got Tennessee, you got the personal issues and the wild stuff, but more believable with the personalities involved. And in Watts, you had the football players and the tough guys with the smash mouth, blah, blah, blah. And Georgia and the mid-Atlantic territory, they were very technical in their pro wrestling style, Steamboat and Flair. And Vern was kind of shoot wrestling in part because of him, and the Crusher, the complete antithesis of that, was the most over guy. So he had heels like Stevens and Bockwinkel that could do whatever the fuck. But that's the way you trained your audience, is what the guy that owned the territory knew best, could book best, could do best, or could present best. So apparently this is what Tony presents best, is what he's doing over there at AEW. But this is what the WWE is. They're getting fucking 1.5 to 2 million people, depending on the week and the occasion, to watch Raw for 3 hours when nothing fucking happens.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, WWE too, you have Triple H at the top, but beyond Triple H, you have other people with wrestling minds there. Whether they have good ideas or bad ideas, there's enough people with ideas, and then there's someone at the top to make the decision. Tony thinks he knows as much as all these other people do. Tony thinks he knows all the ideas, and he understands all the history and all the booking. And then look at that TV show and look at this TV show. Look at the results that each show gets. And Tony has trained his fans that you know that their pay-per-views, if you like those kind of matches, they're going to pay off. And they'll give you the kind of matches you want to see. And he's also trained the fans that the TV show's meaningless. And we're seeing that each and every week play out. But we move on from there.
Well, let me ask you this. This may be a segue from that conversation to the one we're about to have. Is Tony, in his own way, very Russo-rific? Is there always got to be something going on all the time in these backstage confrontations on a 30-second promo? Or every match ends in a beatdown, or sometimes multiple beatdowns, or people are fighting at ringside, or they did a fucking backstage, and we're going to talk about it here in a few minutes on Dynamite. In a 30-second little scuffle, they're throwing fireballs at each other. Is this worse than Russo-rific, where there's just meaningless shit going on all the fucking time?
it's very reminiscent of, you hate to say it because as soon as you make a comparison to Russo, obviously it takes on the most negative of connotations.
That's the one I mean for it to take. I was trying to be extremely negative.
But I'm saying even if you don't want to go like balls to the wall Russo, just like before shit.
I'd like to put Russo's balls to the wall. What are you? What
My
now?
point is, before
saying?
shit went really bad, before like everything went bad, when it was still just getting bad, that version of WCW, that's what reminds me of AEW right now. Late period WCW. When you watch a Tony Storm promo, and then you watch just random people out in a ring doing random things, when almost none of the angles work or get a big reaction, when fans are just silent and sitting there. See, WCW didn't have that. WCW, even as they were declining, still had a hot fan base for the people that actually went. AEW, the people that are still going, sit there and watch it like they're at the zoo. Like they're at the zoo watching a fucking show. Oh, the monkeys are coming out at 1. Let's go watch it.
Well, they're literally getting some shit flung at them.
They are. And it's two companies going in two different directions, and the problems with AEW, we've said it for a long time. There's all sorts of problems. The big one's at the top. And Tony's not going to be someone who could walk away or step away or run the operation away from the creative. And he shouldn't be running the operation, quite frankly. Do you think if any seasoned CEO or anyone who had the ability to be a CEO had been CEO of that company for the last 5 years, do you think the infrastructure and the executives that are in place now would be there? Or would they have a better operation? Would they have a better infrastructure? Would they have a better merch operation? Would everything across the board have been done better if it hadn't been Tony and Mega and the same people fucking up shit for the Jacksonville Jaguars? If instead Tony had said, I want to do it, I want to fund it, even if he said, I may have some ideas, but he got completely involved with it, the wrestling end's fucked up, and then the business end of AEW, there's nothing to write home about. I said it from the very beginning. It's on tape. AEW is a great chance for wrestling executive development because they're going to need to. They're going to need executives for their team. And all they do is hire people that WWE throws away.
Well, and you mentioned the Jacksonville Jaguars. What about if he had said, all right, he plays around in the pro football world. Who is a former head honcho, I don't know what all the job titles are, of a pro football team that might be out there, or high-ranking executive who could, even if he doesn't know anything about wrestling, put me a company together. They've marketed the fucking Houston Oilers goddamn helmets or whatever. Put me a team together, help me with arena relations and that type of thing. Even if they weren't going to do anything about wrestling, put a team together to run an operation of this size, since money is not an object. And he didn't do that either. But Christopher Daniels is his vice president to speak now. Whenever he gets a chance to speak again, he hasn't spoken since he was nominated to speak. But go ahead.
If he's as effective off the air as he is on the air, that says a lot. And we didn't hear good things about him and his job of whatever talent relations going way back. I mean, even like Jelly Nutella when he left, it was like, yeah, they never said a word, never heard from anyone. That was Christopher Daniels in charge, wasn't it?
Well, but hold on now, because Chris Daniels, at least the one that I knew at one point, was a dedicated young man. However, you don't know. What the fuck did they just give you? Okay, you're talent relations. Well, what could I do? Well, I don't know. Nothing. So if he's not writing the show and he's not signing the checks and he's not making the deals for the contracts because Tony's got his finger in everything, and now he nominates Daniels as his spokesman on TV, and then he never speaks again.
Yeah, and then it's still like Tony Schiavone saying, oh, Tony Khan's just saying this in my ear set. Yeah. Or it's still the Bucks just doing whatever they want. The booking of the show, everything that's done on that show just makes no sense. And
the other night, they established that Daniels was there while the Bucks were still doing whatever the fuck they wanted to do.
No, it's Tony Khan can't book. Tony can't book, period. And we'll finish this talking about executives and hires. The Mets used to be owned by the Wilpon family. Originally, Nelson Doubleday of Doubleday Publishing bought the Mets in 1980 from the previous owners, the Derelay sisters, and he had a minority partner, Fred Wilpon, who was a real estate guy in New York. He became the president of baseball operations. Years later, he became a 50% partner right after the 86 World Series of the Mets. Years later, he wanted to put his son in charge. Nelson Doubleday thought his son was a moron. They ended up having a big fight and a big split, and Wilpon took control of the team, bought Doubleday out for...
Wait a minute, you're talking about Jerry Jarrett and Nick Goulas is what you're talking about?
I'll be talking about Jerry Jarrett and Nick Goulas if Jerry had the fucking putt son at that time, not Nick. Because now Fred Wilpon put his son in charge, and he gained a reputation throughout baseball. And I got friends who work in baseball, reporters for baseball. He had a reputation. He's the owner's son who wants to meddle in everything. He thinks he knows more about baseball than everyone. He knows more about how to manage the team than everyone. He knows more how to manage the press than everyone. We had more press leaks than any other team in baseball. Despite the fact that we were the New York Mets, it was a tough sell to get serious baseball people here because of the Wilpon family and Jeff Wilpon. And we now don't have that. We now have an owner who's the richest man in baseball. We've been able to see kind of the difference between the two things. Tony Khan is Jeff Wilpon. No matter how well he means, and no matter how much he loves this thing, he doesn't get it, and he's not good at it. And there's still
this thing of ours.
There's still people pretending that Tony can get it. Tony has gotten it. He has to get it back. Tony doesn't know how to book at all. He's not good at it. And more people need to say it.
You mentioned the Wilpon name, and of course I know these baseball people like I know, NASA space technology, but you may remember this, I'm sure you do. There was a Wilpon that was allegedly, 10 years ago or whatever it was, going to start a wrestling promotion. And several of the boys, I don't want to accuse anyone unnecessarily, but I believe Shane Douglas was one of the people that just glowingly pitched this to me. Was going to start a wrestling company and all the guys were going to get insurance and benefits, and they were going to be treated great, employees, whatever the fuck. And the Wilpon name was used because at that point is that when they owned the team? Around about 10 years ago in that era of time?
They did own it back then, but this is a little bit before then because I remember hearing about this too, and this was right around the time that the Wilpons got tied up with Bernie Madoff. Well, they were always tied up with him, but that's right around the time Bernie Madoff, the Ponzi scheme collapsed.
When he made off with the money?
Yeah.
Well, but that, again... And that, of course, was ridiculous on the surface of it, and I didn't believe it for a second. But so many of the guys were like, smoking the hopium. But was that even did they find out that was really a member of the Wilpon family directly, or was he like cousin Wilpon? He has some relation to the family.
He was a cousin in Florida, I believe.
The Wilpon cousin in Florida. So then it got removed from credulity even one step further. When it wasn't the actual New York Wilpon, it was the Florida Wilpon cousin. And guess who never started a wrestling promotion?
Well, we'll get to AEW Dynamite shortly, Jim. But before we get there, we've cut through a lot of crap today, and I can cut through more because Box of Awesome, my latest Box of Awesome arrived the other day, and I got wonderful Thai knives to in the kitchen do some stuff, or you never know. You never know when these things come in handy.
You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. You have ruined my surprise to you because normally, and see, I had to go down and get my Box of Awesome stuff from this month because Stace had already confiscated it or requisitioned it or whatever for the kitchen, because normally you're getting these knives and these swords and these medieval devices used for restraint in dungeons and whatever I don't know how you filled your questionnaire out or whether you went on some type of registry but you're getting some deadly shit over there. Whereas we're getting the cocktail and wine connoisseur kits and the cooking implements and spice rubs and various culinary. It's all about the culinary delights over here at the castle. But this past month, for my box of awesome, I got the Thai knife sharpening set and hold on, I got to bend over. It's almost a box of lead instead of a box of awesome. I'm bending over to pick up these heavy quality items, but the Thai knife sharpening set, which includes a sharpening whetstone.
What?
A whetstone and honing oil, which now you've heard of the term whet your appetite for something, right?
That's right.
Well, that's because a whetstone is what you use when you're sharpening the knives. You whet your appetite, you sharpen your appetite based on like honing oil. When you hone your skills, you're sharpening your skills. See, this not only sharpens your knives, but it helps you with your grammar. And this is even bigger. Did you get the Thai moon knife set?
I did.
These are amazing. For once, I got the same thing you got. Authentic carbon steel, made in Thailand, hence the name Thai. And these things are giant chopping knives. Well, one is like a cleaver, but it's got, Jesus Christ, you could cleave some shit with that. And listen to that now. When they go in the custom wooden case for these items, and this is like a chopping knife, but that's sharper than a mother-in-law's tongue, I'll tell you what. Have you hurt anyone with yours so far?
No, I'm very safe and very prepared, and I'm always prepared, and I'll be safe, so you better watch out.
And prepare. But I mean, just the handmade custom wood box that they come in has the care instructions and everything imprinted on the wooden box lid on top, and you just put them right back in that thing. And you hand wash and dry these to avoid rust formulation. Occasionally wipe with olive oil to preserve the finish. And you got the knife. Well, you got the knife sharpening set there with it, which this is authentic, purposeful, and artisan. Or as I called Domino's years ago when you still could just call and they just deliver it with some fucking punk college kid in a car instead of all this internet bullshit they go through now. And they had the recording on that the local Domino's in fucking Ypsilanti, Michigan or whatever had put on the recording. And the girl said, and we have the new artisan pizzas ready for you now. So this is an artisan box with artisan instructions on the whetstone and the honing oil to sharpen the blades. So you can tell you if your mother-in-law has a sharp tongue, you can fix her up real good with these various implements and then clean everything off. And after you use this honing oil, I believe it removes any DNA evidence or blood spatters of various kinds.
I don't think it does, and I don't think that should be a concern or anything we even talk about.
I think you can pass the CSI standards if you use both the
I could, but
whetstone and the honing oil.
Again, there are no standards for crime scene intelligence.
Yes, removing the evidence of a crime from these knives is as easy as 1, 2, 3, ladies and gentlemen.
There will be no crime. Again, I don't know why we're saying this. There will be no crime unless you say cutting up some fine meat in the kitchen is a crime.
You've got to be, or in the bathtub. You've got to be prepared.
The bathtub?
Right, in case these knives are going to last forever. They're quality workmanship and materials. If a crime did occur in and around these knives, that still wouldn't be the end of the knives. You could clean them off and start fresh with new owners and they'll still be useful and serve their purpose. So these knives will outlive you, ladies and gentlemen. And basically, that's an example of the kind of quality products that you're going to get when you sign up at boxofawesome.com. And all you got to do is fill out the little quiz and tell them what you're interested in. If you're saying something like if you've seen Pulp Fiction, you want a cleaner, I guess you could put that down. It depends on, they have a category on how you'd like to get rid of the evidence. But all the interests that you have, you can jot them down, and they will send you things related to those self-same interests every month at stellar discounts, plethora of products. You're getting 30% or more off sometimes. And it's mom and pop stores that are just out there trying to fight the man, trying to break through, climb the ladder, gain the mainstream acceptance, live a life of luxury and then debauchery ending in horrible divorce with mom getting most of the money and dad becoming an alcoholic. And Box of Awesome helps all that happen, folks, when you sign up there. And right now, you can get 15% off your first box. When back when I was a teenager, 15% off my first box would have been a big deal.
That would have been when $8.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Box was more expensive even when I was a teenager than that. Boxofawesome.com, you enter the code JCE at checkout, and you're going to get 15% off your first box. And that's, again, boxofawesome.com, promo code JCE at checkout. And, you're going to be able to just slice the shit out of stuff, or whatever type of meat you're wanting to cut.
In the kitchen. Box of Awesome. What's that promo code one more time, Jim?
Sometimes people do it out in the backyard.
In the kitchen. What's that promo code?
Especially around the 4th of July. They do it out in the backyard, Brian. You got the grill out there. It's handy. It's a good way to
prepare your meat indoors, folks. It's always smart to do that without bugs.
It takes all kinds of critters to make Farmer Vincent's fritters. Boxofawesome.com. Enter the promo code JCE.